freshman breakout candidates. The one thing we've talked about a lot is recruiting, and I don't want to harp on it, but I do look around and I see other places that have like big time freshmen that are ready to break out. And I don't think Florida State's had that much. I do think Landon Thomas had a nice year last year, all things considered, who was throwing him and the blocking that was happening. Amari Williams flashed at times. You saw some young guys get in the secondary here and there. But I do think that Florida State will have a few more freshmen that actually see the field. And I still, I don't think last year's class was anything that you're going to write home about or go crazy about. But I do think there are 3 or 4 guys that could really break out and have good years for them. And it all kind of starts and ends with Ousmane Kromah, who, I go back and forth in my mind, Richie, on like how quickly I think he could really make an impact for FSU. In my mind, it's hard to shake the fact that Dalvin didn't break out until about week 5 or 6. And even that was due to an injury to Mario Pinder, or I don't know if Dalvin goes off against Louisville like he actually ended up going off against them. And then obviously going off against Miami and everybody else that he did. So it's hard for me to think that Kromah comes in and just like dominates Bama or something like that early. But I do think that he's your most likely breakout candidate as a freshman. I don't think Florida State's in love with, I don't think they'd publicly say this, I don't think they're in love with the running back room outside of him. I think that's why they went out and got a transfer in the spring window and Gavin Sawchuk out of Oklahoma. And so we'll see what Roy Dell's able to bring. We'll see what Lucas is able to do, or Sawchuk or any of these guys. But I think by the end of the year, I don't want to bet on it, and I don't even know if you could bet on something like this, but I'll bet you $5, right? I'll do that. That Kromah leads the team in rushing this season. Out of running backs. Maybe Castellanos is way up there too, but I think Kromah will lead the team in rushing by the end of the year and be truly a true freshman breakout candidate for the Noles.
Yeah, and I think one big factor that goes into play is when you look at the true freshman breakouts, what position do you see the most across the country? It's typically running back or wide receiver,
sure.
Right? You'll get an occasional freshman quarterback who just goes off, but you don't get many breakout anyone in the trenches on either side of the ball. Maybe defensive back. Travis Hunter was a unicorn. He was able to do both receiver and corner. But I think running back is where you do see a lot of ones that truly break out. And even if he doesn't do it against Bama, I would love it. And maybe we'll do a special over-under before the Bama game, but one of them should be how many carries he gets in that game. Because how much does Gus Malzahn and Mike Norvell trust him, who's never played a college game, but a highly sought-after recruit? I think, I do think he's definitely a possibility. I'm excited to see what he has. And, you mentioned, I think Roy Dell Williams is a fine college running back, but you don't leave Alabama for any other school except maybe in Ohio State or Georgia, right? Unless you were looking for a better opportunity in terms of playing time. So I think that's, very accurate. So we'll see. But I'm excited to see him and hear the reports from fall camp as they continue to come out, hear what happens during the scrimmages. I'm sure he'll get a lot of work in the scrimmages, and it's going to be exciting to see what he turns into. And hopefully if he does have a huge breakout season, we can keep him, because now every year's free agency.
I will get right back to the video, but if you're like me, you are itching to get to that Alabama game just over 3 weeks away. And whether it's a live event, a concert, or just something fun to do with the fam, I am all about making memories, which is why I want to give to the sponsor of today's video, SeatGeek, a huge shout out. If you haven't heard, SeatGeek is the real deal. Over 28 million downloads. They are the #1 rated ticketing app. They've got more than 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek, including concerts, sports, festivals, and more. Right now, college football is right around the corner, so it's the perfect time to snag some tickets. Those tickets for Bama are not cheap. I love using SeatGeek because it's so easy to find cool events. I just used SeatGeek to score tickets to a concert recently, and it was a ton of fun. The app makes it super simple to find great seats without breaking the bank. Look at this. You can pop in and you can see what you're looking for. Tons of options. They've got your back. Each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know if you're getting a good deal or not. The green dots mean good, red dots mean bad, and every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee, so you are covered. And I'm coming through with you for those expensive Alabama tickets. You can use code DOUBLEFRIES, DOUBLEFRIES, for $20 off tickets at SeatGeek right now. $20 off your first purchase with promo code DOUBLEFRIES. All you got to do is click the link in the description. You You can download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so that you can use it whenever you're ready to grab the tickets. So what are you waiting for? Get out there, make some memories. Let's go beat Alabama's butt. Thank you, SeatGeek, for making it so easy. See you guys out there. Yeah, no, it's actually kind of ridiculous the way that it works, but I don't want to complain about that right now. So he was also slated to go to Georgia. He flipped from UGA. And so if you can pull a talent that UGA definitely wanted, that certainly leads well. All right, another flip. This one, Javon Boggs, wide receiver. I have really pushed back on this and talking with some people around FSU and saying, like, dude, stop hyping up like a freshman that transferred from you. You know, like trying to like poke holes in the idea that he is all that he is. And I keep getting told, like, no, dude, shut up. Like, he is like that good. I've heard he has the best hands on the team. My arguments are like, dude, he was a wide receiver that was committed to play for a run happy coach, like in Gus Malzahn. Like, is he really that good? And, you know, with maybe a slight tweak or, you know, hopefully not something long term. But, you know, if McCoy's a little bit banged up, could Boggs come in the slot at 6'1" and really make a difference for you? I don't know if it's against Bama again. But I mean, I think your top two wide receivers are Squirrel White and Deuce Robinson, not in that order. But I think those are your top two guys. And I wouldn't be shocked if by the midway point of the season, or maybe even before that, if Boggs is not your wide receiver 3. I've actually heard really good things on Elijah Moore, getting a little bit more burn this summer or this offseason. But Boggs is I think a wide receiver candidate that could absolutely break out for FSU.
So you kind of hinted at it. The opportunity is there, right? You know, it's unfortunately Florida State does not have the best receiver room in the country, not even the ACC, but there is opportunity. Sure. I've not heard a ton about his fall camp or anything like that yet, but if, you know, his hands are good, you know, catching the ball is one of the most important things the most important thing for a wide receiver, right? You know, I don't care if you run a, you know, 4.2 40, but if, you know, what Tommy puts a dime on you, you know, 40 yards down the field and you can't hang on to it, and then what good are you really? So yeah. I do think with him, he's very intriguing. You know, he's a 3-star recruit, but, you know, it had a lot of interest from other programs. And, you know, again, it's all about the opportunity for me. You know, we are looking for someone to step up at wide receiver. And even your number 1 and number 2, they're not number 1s at most schools that are championship contenders. So, again, it's all about the opportunity with him.
Yeah. A couple on the defensive side. I'll go quicker on both of these, but Kevin Wynn or Juju Wynn is somebody that I could see. One, because he's a freak, and Texas made a really big push to get him to flip, and Florida State was able to hold on there. One of the bigger signings that Odell's had in the last several years before he kind of stepped off the field. Kevin Wynn is one that I think you're going to need to rotate there. A lot of the defensive tackle position. Do I see him coming in and blowing things up against Bama? No, I don't. But I do think as the year goes on, that could be somebody that has to spell Jackson at times. And you're talking, could Kevin Wynn be a guy that gives you 15, 20 quality snaps a game? I do think he could, right? And I think that the trenches are an incredibly hard place for an interior guy to break in. But I think that he would be your closest guy, you know, on either side of the trenches to do that. I don't expect anybody on the other side of the line to do it. And Shamar Arnaud out of Carrollton, Georgia, defensive back corner. I think that he could really break out and have a really good year for the Noles too. I think that Jeremiah Wilson probably really has cornerback 1 locked down. I know that between Rawls and Joseph and other guys, you've got probably cornerback 2's position locked down too. But I think Arnaud could get in and mix it up. You remember A.Z. Thomas getting in his freshman year, kind of toward the back half of the year. I think Arnaud would be my pick in the secondary to get in. So between Wynn and Arnaud, those are my top 4.
Yeah, I think Wynn has an opportunity. You know, it's rare, you know, to see a true freshman come in and make a huge impact in the trenches. But at 6'2", 350, basically, you know, he was one of the highest rated recruits in Florida State's class. Like you said, Texas made a huge push at him. The 247 has him ranked as a 96 overall. And I mean, that's prospect ranking, not where he ranks in terms of the players ranking. That's just his overall ability rating. I think he's a guy that could definitely come in. And like you said, he's not going to start from day one. He's not going to, you know, come in and have, you know, 3 sacks or, you know, 4 tackles for loss against Alabama or even, you know, the next few games on the schedule. But he's definitely, he was one of the recruits that I was most excited about So I think he's my number one.
Yeah, I think what's cool for some of these freshmen that we're talking about is, yes, that Alabama game is pretty daunting week one to think that, some freshman is going to come in and blow them up or anything like that. But I do think that you mentioned Travis Hunter earlier, not to bring up sore subjects, but he as a true freshman was able to go in and dominate because he was so much better than everybody else around him, right? Like he went down to the Jackson State level and he was able to, well, our next two games are against Kent State and East Texas A&M. There would be opportunities for these freshmen to get in and mix it up and really get a lot of game experience in that first month of the season. Whereas if you didn't have those games early, maybe you're not able to do that. And so I do think that will be a help for them. And if, man, I think you play Bama and then you have one of those gimme games and then you have a bye week and then you have another one of those gimme games, which is stupid scheduling, and you shouldn't have, a bye week between East Texas A&M and Kent State is ridiculous. But, you're talking about like 4 weeks of preparation for those guys to take a ton of snaps in those games. I think that's a big deal for FSU and will be a help to get them some early action that could expedite their process of speeding things up. Remember in 2023, you played LSU first, then you had a gimme game, and then you played Clemson right after that in week 3. So this year you have a little bit of a lighter load to get some of those guys acclimated. So it'll be interesting to see. Again, not the recruiting class they think that Mike Norvell or any FSU fan wanted at the end of the day, but more freshman guys that I think can make it kind of instant impacts than they've had in the past, right? Even last, the class before that had like Charles Lester and Luke Kromenhoek and Cam Davis. I mean, none of those guys came in and made massive impacts as a freshman. They just, even though they were highly rated, they just weren't like that, I guess, at the end of the day. So is what it is.